Be a song's gonna point it to your head. Now, this. The military flow, turn this back. Bring you a favor between me, my bread. I trimmed out that something that I do. Every time my bread, think that I'm not. I get the dime, the surgery. Boy, I gotta walk around here looking like you wanna be from me. But man, hey guys, it's Gopi Auntie Says. I had to start with that song because it's Gopi Auntie Says, as you know, I've also made a mark under the names Keto Preet, Ganadakar, vagus nerve neuroplasticity, and and what would 50 Cent do? But then we also say, what would Gopi Auntie do? I've joked over quite a while that like the case I had against the Peel District School Board was like next level, like crime documentary stuff. But when you don't care and you know that you have the receipts, you just keep going. And so last night I did a thing and I posted the receipts of Nadia Good, Felipe Pareja, both of the Peel Elementary teachers local because they love solidarity, at least when it's a serious cover up or theft of my childhood, just my personal stuff, right? And because I'm not a pushover, they thought that, hey, we can get this dummy. Not looking like the dum dum now, am I, y'all? Anyways, I had posted the transcript on January 22nd and 23rd, and I'm actually the reason that monster from the Ministry of Education, DJ Polly D. Thief Calandra, came to the Peel District School Board. After I posted what is now the ghost of um, this old man called Bill William Godsky. He is a man from the 2020 Anti-Black Racism Review. If you go on my Instagram the day after, I thought, hey, I've caught them all in the act, and I thought, hey, Uncle Jas Paul Gill, like I laughed and I said, hey, Johnny, yes, Papa. I was talking to I think Paul Calandra, and I was like, Johnny, yes, Papa, stealing money, no, Papa. And I was sure I would get some kind of justice. And here we still are. So I took matters into my own hands. Um, a lot of people are kind of shocked at the fact that like I have continued to heal and just kind of like love myself through this process. I've shared, I think in my original podcast that this January is 2 years of me recovering from an eating disorder. And I've always been open about mental health and my struggles because if I can just inspire one person, I feel like I am helping to make the world a bit of a better place. I'm not here looking for a savior complex. I said from day one that this fight, there's like multiple fights on multiple fronts that have been happening, not because I'm combative or as the courts that misuse legal attrition, meaning like dragging you out through the court process till they bleed you out financially. But it's more about like, the mental drainage that they put people through. And I couldn't understand why life was getting so difficult, why like when we used to go on vacation before, people would be like, yeah, you guys are so lucky you have healthcare. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm so glad we do because like we pay into taxes, but at least it means everyone is safe. And, I had this illusion that like we have access to this thing called justice. And in this April will be 3 years since I've had the Peel District School Board, the union that's supposed to represent me and around 8 or 9,000 members. My things are not scripted because I'm not lying, right? So like I guess theirs have to be like perfectly scripted because they're lying. And you're gonna see my personality come out in this because I have this many F's to give. This many. When you have gone for I'd say 41 or 42 years trying to live for everyone else, trying to heal so that like you would be accepted. you kind of lose yourself, right? And you put your self-worth in the hands of many others. And I have always, always, always counted my blessings, but never have I ever felt better as a human being than since November 2024. It's been quite the uphill trek. Um, but like life came to a halt on that particular during that particular time. It was actually my niece's birthday. My ex-husband to be, who also happens to work at the Peel District School Board, um, was telling my children when he saw me on the highway when I was going to my gym, Fitness 365, aka Monster Gym. Shout out to them. I've been going there since I was about 17, and I finally like rejoined. When you become a mom, when you become a wife, you start to like put everyone before you, right? And you start to think like, I'm going to be frugal with my money. So I had a bit of a moment, I think in November or December, where I was feeling so stuck. And I knew I needed to go back into an environment that invigorated me. So I went back to Fitness 365. Because I have ADHD, we love to tell multiple stories. And if you know me, you'll know I absolutely love playing through, like reminding people of memes. It was the memes and knowing exactly what I've been doing in the last, I'd say a year, almost a year and a half, right? I've had a strategy this whole time. I've played with a few different things and I've seen that like, you know what? The best thing that sells is a bit of a thirst trap. So it doesn't mean I'm thirsty, right? It just means like your girl, well, not your girl, even though it's giving not an auntie. Um, you anyways, I have played around with a few things and I've accomplished a lot of things. And I haven't done them because I want to be like the ish or whatever you want to call it, or a clout chaser, or I don't want to do it for that like savior complex. I want to do it because like life should be fair, bruh, right? Like seriously, why is it that like we are paying so much in tax, but more than ever we are struggling? And I'm on the sunshine list, but I didn't get there easily. I worked my butt off my whole life. Okay. So before the public gets mad at teachers, this, that, and the other, or people that are outspoken because like we just don't care, right? Before you get mad at me and think like, yo, she should shut her mouth, why don't you reflect on why you are so triggered? Um, I just think it's insane how many people have asked me why this is so personal to me. This is personal to me, this public FU, because for almost 3 years, up until about January 6th or 7th, I trusted what turns out to be a planted lawyer, Oye Yinka Oye Lowo of Yinka Law. Her like legal name as per the Law Society of Ontario is Oye Yinka Oye Lowo Otador. She has continued for 3 years to drag me through the legal attrition process. I had no idea that she was an insider, but there was something up. Like when you have ADHD, I finally got like formally diagnosed in, I guess I'm gonna have a few multiple episodes here. I finally got diagnosed in August of 2024, right before my marriage fell apart. I thought after like 11 years, like we were solid. We had been through the worst of the worst. And like, as much as it felt like a roommate situation, I just thought like, like we were good. And man, did they try to pull the rug out from under me. When I say they, I mean my ex-husband to be. And I have no issues against him other than what he did to our kids. He knows what he did, but ADHD, like all over the placeism. And even if I don't use words, trust me, I have the education. And yes, I just made that word up because I don't care. Um, he told my kids the other day when I was going to the gym that I was giving the shout outs to, Mommy's going to a bar. Why are you so mad, bro? Like, Whether you choose to apologize to our kids or not, along with the Peel Children's Aid Society, the fact is, I'm the first mother to ever, let's get this correct, guys, in Ontario, to ever get what's called a bad faith finding against the Peel Children's Aid Society. But, a few people have gotten it before, but it took their children dying to get it. I'm not that mother. And I was not going to let my kids be put into terrifying situations, even though I know the weight that my boys and I goddamn lived with, okay? I know how begged, I begged for my kids and I to be safe. It still triggers me. It still triggers me that, like, people want to use mental health against us, especially when we have this little thing called the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which was like, and you know what, like, some people even ask me, like, oh, why did you go public on social media? Because I knew those monsters from the transfer payment system were watching me on my stress leave. I know that they utilize like private investigators, just like that monster Rochelle Silva did at Reconnect Mental Health. For years, I was mortified about talking about why I lost my job at Reconnect Mental Health. I take great pride in the fact that I worked in the mental health and addiction sector, right? What I don't take pride in is that I was on an unpaid leave. I wasn't misusing policies. I know the public loves to shart on so-called public employees. None of us are actually public employees since 1997, FYI. Um, but Rochelle Silva sent a private investigator after me when I took a stress leave and I decided to do my student placements. I was going to Madai College. I was working where I had Fridays off. I had taken Fridays off because I would go to Buffalo to what has since closed. And it was kind of the best decision that I made. At that time, I had about $23,000 in the bank saved because I was so sure I would get a house before the age of 30. That didn't happen, but fortunately I had that money saved because I didn't have anyone to like help me go to school or whatever else it was, right? So fortunately I had that money. I went to school, took the Fridays off, completed like I think it was an 11 or 12 or 13-month program, and it is the best decision that I ever made. Um Anyways, they knew, and they burned me by having a private investigator follow me. They held on to my laptop, which Mary Jane Cripps, her son Alex, who was really nice, Alex Walter, had my Dell computer with all the LimeWire downloads and stuff. He had updated as a courtesy to me. But like they kept Scott Trevethik, the creepy perpetrators who would like kind of like target the student teacher, like the students and the younger ones. He was happily married. But like I was the problem. Okay, cool. No problem. I remember when they finally got to me with someone who brought me a certified letter, and they gave it to me and they said, "We will not be giving you back your property until you sign this letter." That letter was basically saying that I was fired for theft, this, that, and the other. That letter also said that they would be reporting my doctor to the medical board, like the profession, whatever her regulatory body was, the Ontario College of like Medical Professionals. I know what mine is, but anyways, to her regulatory body. I had applied for EI because I wasn't misusing anything, but like at that moment I was terrified. So I stopped even like processing that application because I didn't want to jeopardize my doctor. Even though I knew I was doing nothing wrong, this is how gaslighting and institutional harm through this transfer payment system works. They create toxic situations where they misuse information against you and then they try to make you look like the bad guy. What they failed to tell the public, just like I'm exposing about the Peel District School Board, and like Rochelle Silva de Silva, who started off as like I think a front desk, like an office assistant, taking phone calls initially. Um, she started off as a front desk receptionist, and she moved her way all the way up to HR manager, and now she's doing like trainings and stuff, and like pretty sure that money's not meant to follow your staff who have told you that they need some time off to deal with their mental health. At that time, I wasn't diagnosed, but I told them I was leaving because I was struggling mentally. And I didn't know I couldn't go to school and try to like find some joy in my life. But apparently, organizations such as reconnect.on.ca that are now located at Prime Real Estate on Bloor and Islington, where I did a full year of my student teaching placement, um, chose to like throw me away like garbage. But what Rochelle and the Peel Board and all these other monsters in these like corporate entities which have no accountability to the public fail to tell you is that they can just do whatever they want, or I was about to say whatevs, and so I'm going to say it, but anyways, they fail to tell you that they are allowed, get this, just in Ontario alone, they are allowed to write off checks for 24,000 up to $24,999.99 So any amount under 25,000, they get to write off. Make it make sense, y'all. Guess whose money that is? Mine, yours, everyone in Canada. However you feel about anyone, you should be pissed. Imagine the people that are putting their kids in private schools and don't even know that like they're paying to fund a corporate scam since 1997, when the public system became not so public. All across Canada, this is happening. I am the person that exposed the fact that the PDSB, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, Rochelle Silva hired mommy and daddy to clean our, we had like a crisis home near our location for a variety of things because we had a solid like mental health and addictions team. There was a variety of teams. I was a community support worker. I started off in the day program and I got hired right out of university because I guess I was good enough until then. But yeah, she hired mommy and daddy and thought like no one would ever find out. So public, maybe ask her, say, like, how can you get to do all that? And it's not about bitter. It's about accountable is accountable is accountable. That money's not yours or for your mommy or your daddy or your bestie or whoever the hell they have written them off to. It is for the public, right? And I believed wholeheartedly in mental health and addictions. In my first episode, I had mentioned that um, Paul Crowley, may he rest in peace, when I did my student placement at Parham House at a historical home at Wellesley and Sherbourne, near the Wellesley and Sherbourne area, actually near the EPO office where I ended up going. And I used to like reminisce. Sorry if I'm playing with my hair. I my sister makes fun of me because I always talk with my hands, and so like we have this thing. So I guess it's the hair now when I'm on camera. Um, Paul Crowley. Parham House was a hospice that was designated. It was a historical, beautiful home downtown. Um, and people came there to die. It was a hospice for end of life care for those that had cancer. On my days from school, it was like 2 days a week. I would go there and I would volunteer, and I learned so much about humanity and compassion. That is, Paul Crowley is the reason I teach my kids and others to not be afraid of people that hear voices. Um, he was a renowned artist who used to, I think it's Clark's Photography or some photography. It's like an art studio. I'm gonna double check the name, but it's a huge studio that does like a lot of art stuff. And he actually had his work published in a CAMH article, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. So there's the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, and there's the Canadian Mental Health Association. He taught me about humanity. I think up until then, if I saw someone on the subway talking to themselves or like, you know, I might be afraid. I might be like, oh my God, like what's happening, right? Like we all have like a fear reaction or whatever based on our life experience. Life is relative, right? So you're gonna look at the world through um when we were in school for teacher, sorry, for social work, my professor taught us, like, I think it's called everything is relative, right? So you're going to look at your world through what is relative. Um, and so, he taught me the beauty of, like, maybe they hear voices, but what the public fails to understand is that, like, someone who has schizophrenia, the voices that they're hearing in their heads are as real as how loud I'm being to you. So instead of saying what happened, like, instead of judging and saying to people, what the hell's wrong with you? Because I feel like society really has this stance of, like, better than thou, or whatever the hell else these people think they're coming at people with. But move towards humanity, move towards dignity, move towards understanding. And maybe then we'll understand why, like, people are struggling, rather than saying, what the hell's wrong with you? Or ask me why I won't shut up, and why, like, what's in it for me? This was never about money, but you better believe your girl is going to be recompensated. Is going to be compensated, sorry, for the hell that they have put me and my children through. Okay? Um, Sorry, it gets a bit emotional at times. Given the nature of ADHD, I kind of got off on a tangent there, but oh, Paul Crowley. He taught me about humanity, and he taught me that like the voices and my work at Reconnect Mental Health taught me a lot. I'm glad that I did my student placements there. It was actually my last student placement before I graduated in 2008. And I got hired right out of university. I remember calling my sister Nini Rashpal. I remember saying, Nini, I got hired as a day program worker. I remember calling Nini when I got a scholarship from Guelph Humber. I remember calling Nini about everything. The way that life is, like, it's kind of hindsight or whatever, and you don't always realize that, like, you take moments for granted. So when I tell you, like, my world changed in 2008, it absolutely did. I was proud of myself for being successful and, like, having achieved everything, even though, like, growing up, I did everything. And, everyone has a story. And people forget that trauma is usually why someone is the way that they are. And instead of trying to understand people, we we look at them in a way of, like, what the hell's wrong with you? What happened to you? Like, almost from, like, a defective stance, instead of looking from empathy. And I know the name Oprah may trigger some people because of the Epstein files and whatnot, so I apologize. Because of the Me Too movement, and there are a lot of victims um, that are affected by child abuse, physical, emotional, sexual, all of it. But the reason I bring her up is she collaborated with an incredible child. I think it's a child developmental specialist, but regardless, it's Bruce Perry, Dr. Bruce Perry. And she wrote a book she collaborated on a book with him called What Happened to You? So I really encourage everyone to start looking at people with empathy and understanding instead of judgment, and saying, like, suck it up, because my traumas are never going to be the same as yours. My strength is not going to be the same as yours on any single given day. We are not the same person at any single moment. Like, we are all, most of us in society are hanging on by a thread. Um, so my whole goal was to talk about what the hell happened to me this last week at the Cardi B concert. I will do that shortly when I come back, because I'm going to the dentist. I was supposed to have my braces removed. I had a deep bite. Um, Shout out to West Humber Dentistry, where it all kind of started, in the John Garland neighborhood, where the fiasco with Freshco actually happened in 22 Division, and how corrupt police are. So they investigated themselves, not West Humber Dentistry, because they're phenomenal. They investigated themselves for an assault by an Asian grocery store worker. You can see the video footage on my Instagram. You can also see the LECA report, which is the accountability body. for the police. Not so interestingly, fun fact, they 22 division, which is like in John Garland, they investigated themselves, and instead, in spite of like conflicting reports, they it was invalidated and unsubstantiated. And apparently, even though I told them that I had like a family wedding, at that time my ex-husband's first cousin was getting married. That very Monday was the goat meat party. My son had a dental cleaning at the same West Humber dentistry, so I went to Freshco and I saw them assault a black man. And most of the comments online have been pretty good and supportive, but some of them have been like, I think it's visceral or vitriol or whatever. I'm human enough to admit I don't know all the definitions offhand, but I think that's about like, that's something I might put in an essay when I was at school, where I kind of graduated with distinction, all jokes aside. But like, I like using those fancy words because it makes you feel kind of smart, right? So, anyways, it was disgusting. It was an assault on his dignity. He stole like a few items, but what a lot of people fail to understand is people don't steal because it's fun. People don't steal because it's lazy. People usually don't pick where the hell they're born, guys. I have referred to this concept as the lottery of life. If my parents did not, if they weren't part of the diaspora, or if they didn't decide to displace themselves from India, as one of the last immigrants that made it here about 50 years ago, our dad told us in the hospital when he was dying in ICU, I might not be here, right? I might not be this outspoken little girl. But just to tell you, like, some of our outspoken roots are kind of inherent to who we are. I don't know, but like when I lived in India with my grandparents for the first 4 years of my life, I was told that I started going to school there. And I don't know if it was the Canadian citizen me or the hell no, I ain't gonna deal with your BS. But I got hit by the teacher um in a little place in a city we call it Shad, called Audenpur. So there was like an army base near where I grew up. It's called Talwada. And it's very important to me because my grandparents were like, excuse me, my mom's parents, my maternal nana nani, um, they raised me. They were my lifelines. But anyways, I got hit by the teacher at that time. And I said, F this, bruh. I probably didn't know a word of English. But anyways, I'm told that I walked all the way home in defiance. And I said, I asked random strangers, and that could have ended very differently given my obsession with crime documentaries and stuff. But luckily, it didn't. Um, and here I am, this like 44-year-old mama bear, making history, not afraid of anyone. But the reason I linked that story is I walked all the way to my Nana's house. I used to call him Paya. He used to call me Gopana. Um, and I was like, "ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਮੇਰੇ ਭਾਈਏ ਦਾ ਪਿੰਡ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਆ?" I was like, do you know where my grandpa lives? And I was asking people for a ride. I wouldn't do it now because I like I think I know a little bit better, but like I had that fire and passion in me at that age. And people are born with different like abilities and like things, and like this whole concept of like normal, or like, why are you acting like this or that? Why don't you act like a good girl? Or why don't you act more ladylike or whatever? Why don't you let people live and let them live their best lives and just be a good human, right? But most of us can't do that because we have stupid lives. We love to judge people because we love to not be authentic and not to heal. Um, just before you get annoyed and you start to think, who does she think she is? Just to give you a little bit of my background at the end of this episode, I probably should have started at the beginning, but anyways, ADHD is what it is. I first did business marketing at Humber College, and then I did a degree and diploma at the University of Guelph Humber. I remember Cassandra telling me when I missed my convocation for the University of Guelph Humber because my sister had passed away in 2008, that I graduated with distinction. I was like, what's that, dude? And so I had to Google it. And apparently that means I was kind of pretty smart. And it means like your average grades tend to be, I think, an A up to an A minus or something. But basically, I consistently kept my grades at about an A level. And I did that for the whole term of my 4 years. During that time, I also did had two jobs. I remember when I used to be in college and university, I worked at the airport. As a keychain girl, like I worked everywhere in the airport. Um, so my nickname at duty free was Keychain Girl. I had to quit the Keychain Girl job. Um, I used to work for Canadian Duty Free. Renata Raju was amazing, but unfortunately, all organizations have some serious corruption. And I'm outing the name that pissed me off and made me kind of feel like I had no other option but to quit. Even though I financially needed that money, I had to quit because every year we had to do an inventory. Vincent Said may be a trigger for a lot of people who used to work at duty free. I think it's called some other thing now because they've changed the corporation into like a different name. Whatever the case, I wonder if he's there. I wonder if he's retired. Right after I had done my inventory, like it takes hours on hours. So I used to be the keychain girl. I think this is when they had the three terminals, and um I had finished everything. So I was like, dude, I have my exams coming, and like I knew I had to pace it, right? And like with ADHD, I would always wait till last minute. So I was like, dude, I can't do this. Like I made sure I went in, I did all my hours, I did everything. And all of a sudden this guy is like, oh, when are you gonna do a recalculation of the inventory? I had done a budget for, I mean, sorry, an inventory for years and years. And I never got asked that until then. All of a sudden, I was like, dude, I was like, I have exams coming. I'm finishing and graduating university. What are you talking about? And basically, I was backed into a bit of a corner. And he's like, it has to be done by X, Y, and Z date. I said, why would you not tell me? Um, so I went from working in the duty free shops to being like the keychain girl. My predecessor for those that work at the airport was Zishan, I think. But either way, I had to quit one of those two jobs. Fortunately, I was getting hired, but just like Scott Trevethik at Reconnect Mental Health, they are preying on vulnerable females. But then I guess, the world operates on the Bruce Hutchinsons of the corporate world and the public tax system. And the Vincent Said was the one from um, duty free. And so, anyways, I had to quit. But either way, I'm just like putting it all out there. Next episode is going to be about my illegal detainment for leaving my seat with my friends, who I joke with the whole way to downtown. We took the Up Express to see Cardi B. We were waiting, and I joked with them. I was like, dude, y'all left me out. You didn't get me a t-shirt. So I was like, okay, don't worry, we'll just get one downtown. And so we just laughed it off. Like 4 out of 6 of us, or 5 out of 6 of us, have kids. So we took the responsible way. We went to um, Scotiabank Arena. I had been waiting for so long because Cardi B's a goddamn baddie. What she has overcome. Like I see her with her kids. I'm like, she's such an inspiration. I've loved her from like Love and Hip Hop days. And to see her like thriving after the Super Bowl debacle and like these men that make us cry in the shower and whatever. I'm now pretty and petty as F because I love myself. And I'm going to see to it, and I'm going to ask y'all to help get this story to Cardi B and see if, like, maybe Scotiabank should be paying for my trip. Because Cardi B shouldn't be paying for it either. But like, if Cardi B wants to help a sister out, I would love nothing more than to go to the goddamn concert that I was looking forward to going to after finally finding some peace in my life, after fighting this illegal system. So I'm asking you guys, please, like, help get this story out there to Cardi B. I uploaded the corrupt 52 division. They kept me at the station till 7 a.m. And I slept on that metal thing out of principle because I don't play. I knew I was being illegally detained, but I swore at them all night. And normal people, like if you swear at these losers, they'll arrest you, they'll beat you when no one's looking. But I kept saying, dude, like, what's the point of all this? So, anyways, I've uploaded the audio because, as I said to, and I've also uploaded the audio of the January 22nd theft of my hard drive with my children's pictures on it. I had even left like my wedding pictures. I deleted them from like my personal files and stuff. I had left those pictures for my children because I said, as much as like their dad and I were not together, I wanted my kids to have that memory of like, once upon a time, our parents loved each other. This is where our foundations are from. But, the appeal board had other plans. After years of discriminating, they chose to try to make me um, sign a waiver of defense through their little plant Yinka law, who's actually under a capacity hearing. And like all my family and friends warned me. They're like, "Yo, dude, she seems like a stupid lawyer." I was like, "Nah, bro, the system is racist." No, the system is definitely rigged. Um, I figured out the transfer payment system. I feel like such an idiot. Up until about January, beginning of January, mid-January, I was like, dude, I have a government job, or I joke in Punjabi, say I have a government wala job. Government wala kam hai. Nothing is government work, guys. Since 1997, they're stealing taxpayer dollars, and it's like a corporate shell scam. Hospitals are sitting on a surplus. They're making like record donations from the public who they're stealing money from. And they have no right to do it. But y'all got to help resist this BS because did you notice in the budget last week? Paul, whatever, Beth Levine or whatever the minister of finance is or whoever he is, for the first time ever, they just happened to coinkily dinkily announce a surplus at PDSB. But your homeboy, DJ Polly D Thief Calandra, who has locked me out of my email for months on end, um, because like I don't like to be told what to do, but moreover because I was terrified for my life, so I went public thinking, you know what, maybe he'll listen to me. He's been CC'd on all of the email chains, so have the courts, who I begged to protect my kids and I from, but instead they gave my ex an uncontested trial. But anyways, fast forward, I've been blocked out of the Peel District School Board email. Some might say I asked for it, but I might say, actually, no. Y'all need to wake up and see why I've taken this fight so publicly. Why do people like Paul Calandra and Doug Ford get to steal from the likes of the real legacy builders who talked about the gravy train, Rob Ford? And if you think critically, guys, look back at how quickly he spiraled. And having like the trauma informed background, it's unfortunate. Oh, ADHD. I forgot to tell you guys, I did my teacher's college in Buffalo and I've done like maybe 15 additional qualification courses through the Ontario College of Teachers. If a sudden report comes up for being like unbecoming of whatever, it's because they targeted me. Um, I'm just saying, like, guys, wake the hell up, okay? The reason life is so hard is because we're idiots and we keep letting the government bail banks out. Do you know in the transfer payment system, there's some like rugby clubs we pay our tax dollars to? Yeah, I didn't know it was that easy, bro, to just write off all kinds of taxpayer dollars and like have no accountability. And I actually said to someone on Instagram who I went back and forth with for a few weeks when I had my Keto Creed account. We went back and forth because like they believed in corporate and I was like, hell no. I was like, I was drinking that union juice, which to me feels like a cult. PS, they steal your money. They own Intact Insurance, which Intact public entities across Canada, y'all. There's probably gonna be some gaps in my story, but I'll fill them in after. Intact Insurance, Intact public entities, was bought with the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. the most lucrative pension that all kinds of like others look up to because it's so financially well um managed. I'm looking at the time. I have a dentist appointment soon. So, anyways, they bought this thingy thing called RSA, who used to own London Assurance or Insurance or whatever, who, like, the founding fathers of this country, I should actually say the founding settlers and colonial entities who steal money from then till now, they made a very public apology a year earlier to the fact that no one in the slave trade who was enslaved was compensated. Sounds like history's always repeating a pattern. But they actually compensated the slave owners. Let that sit with you for a minute. That's what the pension plan owns, okay? So they bought a company that has blood on its hands and it has years of oppression. You guys want to talk about like, oh, their investments in arms are unethical, and I remember being at annual meeting where like, they let people wear Nazi uniforms and all that stuff because they didn't want to like stand with certain, global conflicts that show us again and again that, the world is not very just, right? But whatever the case, I was an award-winning advocate, but y'all want to come after me now? Maybe because I asked for it, but you know what? Everyone has always known that I've been outspoken. I just didn't like myself. Like, I kind of like myself most days, but like, I never loved myself. I never have given more F's, less F's actually, about what you, and your little narcs who used to be on my little like socials, and some of you still watch, right? And Peel Board, are we gonna fire Wendy Messier or her like Bay or Mandem, her husband, John Messier? Did you know that he owns Four Star Insurance? I couldn't figure out why the Peel Board was like after me, trying to make me look so outspoken. And I felt kind of cray cray or a little bit delulu. I think that's the favorite word. Um, I couldn't figure out why I had 17 documented incidents of like harassment, racism, ableism, like so many different things. But then, like, when you have ADHD, you have like this like additional instinct, which has never failed me. Yeah, sometimes the anxiety gets in the way, but it has never failed me. I've always known to document the hell out of things. Had I not done so, I wouldn't be sitting here. If you go back and you listen to the audio of me with Nadia, who pretends not Nadia Good, up to no good with an E, and Felipe Pereja, who were there when Jessica Whitelaw Cooper um, sold her soul to go to the EPFO Towers with Gail Bannister Clark. Um, she berated me in front of all of the executive because I spoke up during an election year and I called out the corruption. Like, I was like, dude, this is not cool. I remember when I was in university, my professor asked us, he's like, he or she, I can't even remember who at the time, if you don't do something that you wouldn't want to be on the news. So I literally said to them at the executive table, I said, why are we waiting until like an executive meeting to say a position suddenly became available to like let the membership know? Because they wanted to keep that vote at the table because that's just how power and control, abuse, coercive control works, right? Shout out to www.coercivecontrol.ca. That's how power or the illusion of power works, right? They know who they want in there, so they waited. And I fought back, and then they did this whole dramatic performance, um, bringing what was her name? Doris Dooney, I think. And I like really liked her, but until she was like brought in as a plant. And when I called member services, I remember them implying that like it's okay for Jessica to embarrass you in front of the executive. During that time, I genuinely want to thank Christine Bisson for coming to me in the washroom when I fell apart because I was so triggered in one of our follow-up meetings. I want to thank her and I want to thank Val Frantalizzi. They are solid humans. Not everyone in these spaces is bad, But don't believe that you need the union who is working with the employer to destroy you. They own Crawford and Co., who asked me to sign the defense waiver after I refused to use the Internal Human Rights Office. I think it was Leslie Brooks and Dylan Bruxler. Um, they use a variety of like human rights protected grounds to give the illusion that, you're in good hands. You're not. It's an internal office that is used for the liability pipeline all across Canada to minimize liability. And if you're an 80s baby, remember when we were like growing up, there was like playgrounds everywhere. Remember when we used to like climb in gym? Can't say I enjoyed doing it because I hated it. I was a chubby um as a kid, but then there was also like those climbing ropes. Did you know? I mean, not none of this new generation is going to get it, but we remember. And do you remember how like we weren't like depressed back then because like we were connected and we were allowed to take risks because there's like 12 types of play and risk taking is one of them? That was all replaced with like the liability pipeline. So Wendy, are you leaving or is your husband gonna go? And Kervin, why did you guys give me a letter of expectation? And let it be public notice that my pay better not be messed up, WSIB, because WSIB is also a part of this internal system. So stay great, stay happy. As much as there's like, monsters that I'm talking about, there's also a lot of solid human beings. I would not be standing as strong as I am if I refused, like if I didn't like trust my gut instinct. I was like, something's not feeling right. I didn't know it was this bad, y'all. We have been robbed for 30 something years, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it because I already did it with the Peel Children's Aid Society. Stay tuned for the rest of the story. Shout out to your girl Cardi B. And honestly, guys, so since all this started, I've been paying a 9.95% mortgage, which I still am. Um, I am humbly asking if anyone is able to support this fight. It's not about me, but like there's serious mental toll that it takes on you. But the reality is I'm paying a 9.95% mortgage. And I'm supporting my kids, and I am tired. I am one person taking on a system brave enough to look that loser Bruce Hutchinson of Gen Est Murray straight in the face to say, yo, dude, I'm not letting your secretary email me. But still, they're misusing the courts to pretend that it's a legal state. If anyone is able to help donate to my GoFundMe, it's on my socials. I would really, really appreciate it. Or you can help to buy me a coffee. I've also always done things from a place of like humanity, and I've always given back. And I know like good comes back to you. And I'm not doing any of this for any accolades, but I know the legacy I'm leaving for my kids. If anyone is able to help donate, I would really appreciate it because some days are much harder than others. And for anyone that says like teachers abuse their sick paid leave, no, we don't, bro. You have no idea the crap they are creating in these situations. No one chooses to be on a stress leave. Yes, there's a handful in any profession that misuse their days. Don't blame us though. Blame the people that are not funding your classes properly. Blame the monsters that are creating a hallway crisis. Blame the city infrastructures that are falling apart because money matters more than whatever else it is. This is a rampant issue across Canada, and I will not stop until I abolish this transfer payment system. I've already, as a self-represented litigant, given the federal and the provincial government 60 days notice that I will be suing them. And I'm on my way because nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. And a shout out to 50 Cent, dude. I've been telling you for like months, like this shit is getting just juicier and juicier. Please reach out to Cardi B. Please let me know if you guys are able to donate by doing so. I will share the links below. It really takes a village. I am so goddamn grateful for my ability to see the incredible blessings I have daily, no matter how hard my life is, bro. If this is happening to me, guys, And I'm glowing the hell up because of something called neuroplasticity and my refusal to fall. Like this whole thing at 44 to be the best version of myself, it is possible for all of us. Shout outs to the beauty industry or whatever, but like you can heal from your trauma. If I can do it during this hell, you can do it. So if you're interested in learning about neuroplasticity, which is our brain's ability to change, it's like ingrained hell. And anyone who knows me knows how long I was negative for. I focused on like external factors that were beyond my control for far too long. Excuse me. But I snapped out of it because my boys, my lifelines are there. And I will remind this province and this country, if anyone tries to come for me, I will press record right when you come near me and I will live stream because I have a big audience. But my boys are my world. If I did not fall apart when my sister died, you cannot come close to me because I look a little bit cutesy and demure. Whatever happened to cutesy and demure, by the way? Um, Guys, love yourselves, be nice, stop being monsters, tell Cardi B to help a sister out, and tell Scotiabank, guys, pay attention, bro. They didn't have their body cams on. All those juicy details are coming up. But in the meantime, you can listen to the loser who had the European accent that like why did you not give me the badge numbers, bro? How come all the officers wearing like these things called body cams that I think we paid thousands of dollars for, y'all? And how come the sergeant, when I went into the station, said, I'm going to suggest that like you didn't get kicked out of the Scotiabank Arena. What's up, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment? Y'all messed with the wrong one. And Omers, you also own like 5% of them. Did you know that I have an Omers pension from like when I did EA work for a year? Y'all messed with the wrong auntie, bro. Stay tuned, guys, because as I said in the recording released of Nadia, not so good, and Bill Godsky, who they did spoliation of evidence. P.S. Scotiabank Arena, you better get that security footage, bro. Toronto Police Services, you better get that body cam footage, and I better get all of their badge numbers. So that includes the 3 officers from Scotiabank Arena who used way too much force. You better have the names of those that were sitting in our section, those 2 Caucasian looking ladies, and then the angry bird like white guy that came up to me like this close in my face and was like literally spitting in my face. I said, dude, I texted my friends. I go, are you kidding me? I'm like, why are you spitting in my face? He's like, you're gonna go. Anyways, all of a sudden I'm standing there and I go back to the chubbier, heavier set one. I said, dude, why did you call that guy? Anyone who knows me, like I need a bit of closure, right? So like I went up to this woman and surprisingly the other one who was like smirking at me with her disappeared. And she's like, you were so rude to me. I was like, are you kidding me, bro? No, I wasn't. And then all of a sudden the police come. To be continued, yo. They mess with the wrong one. I do not sleep on metal benches for fun. But they really thought I was drunk because I have no fear, bro. Y'all messed up. Then you're gonna pay up, and I'm not signing any NDAs. Oh, Bruce Hutchinson, here's the irony. You can tell your homeboys at Toronto Police Services that Gopi Auntie don't play, and I will never sign a non-disclosure agreement. Y'all chose to F around. This is what finding out looks like. Sasikal, see y'all later. Stay tuned. And pardon the ADHD, whatever, but I'm kind of funny, but whatever. And I know I'm not everyone's funny cup of tea. I can be annoying to some, but aren't we all? Have an amazing day.